Hello everyone, welcome back to the Wisdom Wench. I am Shannon, I am the Wisdom Wench, and today we are going to be making a Hayfever tea blend. This is a medicinal blend that I'm making for myself to treat my hay fever, and I hope you have a go at making one as well. It's finally got to spring and the birds are singing and the sun is shining and the flowers are out and so is the pollen. I've been making hay fever teas on a one at a time basis kind of throughout the beginning of this year, but today I wanted to make one that I can put in a jar and so I don't have to keep making them one at a time. This is what I've come up with and you'll see how I've made it throughout this video. I am a medicinal herbalist in training. I'm currently in my foundation year before going into the professional year later in September, so everything I'm doing for me and for me only, for my own symptoms. And as you see in the first part of the video where we go into the research of what I'm doing and how to research a herb, you'll see that I'm doing all of these for my specific symptoms. So make sure if you're going to try and blend anything up that you firstly check that it's okay with your doctors and any medications that you might be on, and make sure that you have no issue with any of the herbs that you're choosing. I hope you have a go at making a herbal tea, and please let me know if you try any of these things. Okay, let's get started with our research. So the first step in all of this is the research. If you've never researched any kind of herbs before and you don't even know where to start, just go to Google and type in what herbs are good for X, Y, and Z, but make sure that you don't stop there. This will just give you a road to go down. Get the Latin name for each plant, or the scientific name, and we're going to keep researching from that point. Now, I already have an idea of where I kind of want to go with this hay fever tea. First thing I really want to look at is something for that opening kind of sensation, but also something very soothing. And for me, mint just screams soothing and opening. So we're going to start with peppermint, Mentha piperita, and go from there. So the first thing I'm going to research is the plant's actions. Because you can have multiple different preparations of a plant, it's important to say, for example, peppermint tea if you're using the herb. So I will look up peppermint tea actions. I like to use PubMed and type in, for example, peppermint tea, because we're looking at the tea, not the oil. Peppermint oil is a whole other thing and can cause a lot of damage if used wrong. And then we're looking for the actions of the herbs. So the actions are what the plant does and what the plant contains. So menthol, antiviral, antimicrobial. So I will cross-reference a lot of stuff. I like to use, some of my favourites are the Herbal Medication Dispensary Handbook by Priest and Priest. I like this one. Bartram's Encyclopedia, I like this one as well. Action, digestive, carminative, antispasmodic. Uses, it says for travel sickness, nausea, preparations. A tea infusion is what I'm going to go for. It gives you a whole long list of the different infusions that you can do and different ways of prepping a herb, but I am going to go with a tea. We're keeping it nice and simple today. And when you've got your actions and you're fairly happy, now you need to move on to, you're keeping the same herb, but you're going to look for contraindication. The contraindications for plant are things like medications that the plant can interfere with, or conditions that you may have you should not take that herb with. So peppermint can cause a bit of acid reflux, so if you're taking things for acid peppermint isn't necessarily going to help you with that. Peppermint tea seems to be relatively safe, but again, if you are worried about any of your medications, talk to a doctor before taking something, especially a herb that you might be taking in slightly more stronger quantities. The next plant I'm thinking of using is something really to hit the need for a relaxing plant that I want in the tea. So I'm thinking chamomile. So again, we're saying chamomile tea because we're just using the loose leaf, well, we're using the flower, and we're using German chamomile because that's what I've already got at home, which is Matricaria recutita. So the actions of German chamomile, we've looked up. It's a mild, very, very mild sedative. It's a anti-inflammatory. I find it generally really relaxing, calming plant, and I find that I'm really irritated and generally very groggy with my hay fever, partly because I'm just itchy and uncomfortable and I'm not sleeping. So I'm thinking the kind of calming, relaxing, tying together aspect of chamomile might also really help with my mood. So now we're going to look up the German chamomile contraindications. One that I do know of, some people with hay fever will get kind of like a contact reaction if you're allergic to plants that are kind of in the same family. If you're allergic to asters, daisies, chrysanthemums or ragweed, you may be allergic to chamomile, so that's something to check. There are contraindications for pregnancy, but we're talking about a large amount of a herb, and it can cause drowsiness in some people. So for some, the sedative aspect of chamomile will be extremely strong. So if you're one of those people, take out German chamomile and kind of put something like lemon balm in there. Lemon balm's a very relaxing plant. It can affect blood thinning medications as well, so this is another thing to be very careful of. But this is why it's really important to research the contraindications of every single plant that you plan on using. I've taken German chamomile a lot and it works for me, but that's because none of those situations apply to me. So when it comes to herbal medications, I don't look to put more than 3 to 5 plants in a tea for the medicinal actions. Everything else after that is kind of going more towards flavour. There's only so much you're going to get if you keep diluting herbs. Stinging nettle was one of the first plants that I ever heard of for treating hay fever, and that was years and years and years ago. So each summer I take stinging nettle tea anyway. So with the stinging nettle plant, touching it may cause irritation on the skin. Most of us have fallen into a stinging nettle patch at some point and had a horrible experience. But when you're touching the dried herb, it's normally fine, and when it's in a tea, that's normally fine. It could act almost like a diuretic, so if you're on diuretic medication, don't take it. And again, if you're unsure about any of these, talk to your doctor. But I have my 3 main herbs that I'm going to use as my hay fever tea base. And at this point, it's do I want to add anything for flavour? We'll see about that one. But let's start mixing our tea and go from there. Okay, now we're going to mix our tea. So I have all of my herbs here ready to go. My nettle, my peppermint and my chamomile. I've got a stainless steel bowl. They are the easiest things to kind of re-sanitize afterwards, and I've got measuring cups. We're going to just give this one a go, because normally when I'm making my hay fever teas, I'm making it by the cup. I'm just putting it in a tea strainer and putting it in my cup, boiling the water. What I want to do is make enough of it to go in a jar that I can just take a spoonful of it and make a cup of tea. So I think what I'm doing is I'm going to do 1 cup of peppermint. Whoops. It's quite a nice sound though, you have to admit. So we're going to do 1 cup of peppermint. I then want to use, I think, 1 cup of nettle, tipping this into the cup. I'm not putting the cup in here because otherwise that's cross-contamination of the herb and we don't want to do that. So we're going to add the nettle in here next. Finally, about half a cup of chamomile. If you're wondering where I'm getting these measurements from, I am making them up. I'm just going with this seems right, so we're doing that. What I love about herbalism, it feels very intuitive. I'm picking the amounts of the herb that just feels quite natural to me. So we've got a chamomile, nettle and peppermint in this bowl. It smells lovely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix these together, boil up the kettle and try it, and then at that point, if I feel like I'd like to add anything else for flavour, that is when I will. So brewed up this tea and I let it sit for 10 minutes. I only used 2 teaspoons in this, which will still make a very, very strong tea. That smells really lovely. It's really earthy, but the mintiness kind of hits you just afterwards. You get kind of the nettle and the chamomile first, and then you get the mint. That is a really nice kind of base for a tea. It's very floral. You definitely get the mint, you get it quite quickly. The nettle, it's under there, it's what's giving it that earthiness, but you can really get the softness of the chamomile and that menthol opening feeling of the mint. They're the predominant feelings and kind of sensations when you drink this. So I think what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to leave this as it is. I'm not going to add anything else to this. This is a really nice base of a tea, but it might even be really nice with some fresh ginger and a little bit of lemon. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do instead. Keep this as it is and then add fresh ingredients as I drink it, as I feel like it. So there we have it. There is our Hayfever tea. Final step is to label it. There we go. There are all the ingredients. I have my Hayfever tea in a jar. I'm probably going to take 2 teaspoons of this like I put in the cup, and I'm thinking a couple times a day on high pollen days. I don't feel like I already feel that opening after that little cup I had. Probably wouldn't even need that much. This will be a really nice one to have before bed. It's got a lot of very relaxing ingredients in it, and it was very, very opening, very, very relaxed. So there's our tea. All done, all ready to go. A note on local honey. This is something that you can add to your herbal tea blends if you really want to, as a little added anti-histamine boost. This only works if you have honey from your local area, because the bees are making it with local pollen. It's the plants that are affecting you the most. That is why if you are going to buy honey, it's best to move away from the mass-produced supermarket kind of honeys, and if you can, do shop local. I am primarily vegan. The only thing I have that isn't vegan is this, and I started taking it this year to really help with my hay fever, and it has helped dramatically. Even in the last 4 months as I've been taking it, it has helped stave off the pollen symptoms that would normally start really early with the tree pollen for me till now in May, which I'm very happy with. So it's something to consider if you struggle with hay fever, if you struggle with taking antihistamines, because I have struggled with them quite a lot. The ones that work best for me cause me to be incredibly drowsy, whereas this doesn't. So this is what I add to my tea as a little sweetener at the end. Thank you for seeing this video through with me, and this one's been a bit of a learning curve and I'm really grateful for it. If you try making your own Hayfever tea, please let me know how it goes in the comments below. I would love to hear about it. And if you have any other herbs or remedies that you've got from your families for hay fever that you've been using over the years, please pop them in the comments as well. I would love to hear everyone's like folk remedies and herbal remedies. And thank you so much for staying with me and being here for this, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. Mim. P. Peppermint. There was a very large fly in this room. We have 1 cup of nettle. That's nettle on my lap.